On the 7th of November, New York City will host UFC 268, where we'll see proven veterans, promising newcomers, reckless brawlers, and 2 title fights. We've got communism versus freedom, and MAGA versus Democrats. What a time to be alive. Who are your favourites and picks for this monumental card? Are rivalries going to be put to bed once and for all, or will we see the setup for a couple of epic championship trilogies? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to CSN, let's get cracking. Edgar versus Vera. Kicking off the main card, we have number 13 ranked Bantamweight Marlon Vera facing off against 40-year-old veteran and retirement home escapee Frankie Edgar, who is currently ranked 8th in the division. Cheeto is 11-6 in the UFC, most recently beating Englishman Davey Grant by unanimous decision in June after an impressive performance, earning a Fight of the Night bonus. The BJJ Black Belt has earned 3 Performance of the Night and 2 Fight of the Night bonuses since making his UFC debut in November 2014. Vera is tied with TJ Dillashaw for most stoppage wins in UFC Bantamweight history at 8, 4 being by submission and 4 TKOs. The most recent and possibly most notable stoppage victory was over the previously undefeated Sugar Sean O'Malley, ending his 12-fight winning streak and stopping the hype train dead in its tracks. The latest odds have Vera as a small betting favourite, fancying him to put the final nail in Edgar's UFC career coffin. Coming off of a brutal flying knee loss to contender Corey Sandhagen, number 8 ranked Frankie the Answer Edgar has had 28 fights over the past 14 years in the UFC, notching up an impressive 18-9-1 record in the promotion. The BJJ Black Belt and NCAA Division 1 wrestler holds wins in the UFC's Bantamweight, Featherweight and Lightweight divisions, the latter of which he became the champion of after beating the legendary BJ Penn via unanimous decision at UFC 112 in Abu Dhabi. Frankie would go on to successfully defend the lightweight gold 3 times before losing it to Benson Henderson at UFC 144 in 2012. With such a long career behind him, it's no wonder Edgar has been awarded more accolades than I've had hot dinners. He's tied with Nate Diaz for most Fight of the Night bonuses in UFC history and has the greatest total fight time in UFC history at 7 hours 40 minutes and 51 seconds. He was the UFC lightweight champion for 2 years and has 8 Fight of the Night, 2 Performance of the Night and 1 KO of the Night bonuses. What do you think? Can one foot in the grave Edgar dodge the Grim Reaper one more time and pull off the upset against Vera? Burgos versus Corantillo. Hurricane Shane is the betting favourite going into this scrap despite being on a 2-fight skid. He has a 6-3 record in the UFC, those 3 losses coming to highly ranked opponents in Edson Barbosa, Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar. Despite the losses, Burgos received Fight of the Night bonuses in all 3 of those fights and a full for his 3rd round TKO victory over Charles Rosa. Burgos has a huge 5.5-inch reach and 1-inch height advantage over Corantillo and is the younger of the 2 fighters. Burgos vocalised his frustration after losing to Barbosa back in July after what was a bizarre ending to the fight which Shane was arguably getting the better of. Barbosa landed a heavy right hook late in the final round which Burgos seemed to have absorbed quite well before his body appeared to shut down a few seconds later, causing him to drop to the canvas and leading to referee Mike Beltram stepping in and waving off the fight. This loss has lit a fire under Burgos, who has stated that he's learnt from the defeat and is coming back stronger to get himself back in the win column. MMA Twitter fan favourite Billy Corantillo looks to make a jump into the featherweight rankings when he takes on number 14 ranked Shane Burgos. The former King of the Cage lightweight champ and Strikeoff FC featherweight champ is coming off an impressive 3rd round TKO victory in July against Gabriel Benitez, which earned him his 1st Fight of the Night bonus. Billy Q amassed a respectable 6-1 record before competing as a member of Team Faber on The Ultimate Fighter in 2015, where he lost to Saul Rogers via decision. He gained another 5 victories on the regional circuit and a 2nd chance for a UFC contract on Dana White's Contender Series in 2019, successfully acquiring a contract after defeating Kamwela Kirk via 3rd round TKO. The BJJ Black Belt is now 4-1 in the UFC and looking to continue his ascent through the division. Gaethje versus Chandler. This fight pits the former interim UFC lightweight champion against the former 3-time Bellator lightweight champ, the winner getting the next shot at the gold. Both fighters are coming off of losses in title fights, Gaethje having lost to lightweight GOAT Khabib and Chandler having lost to current champ Oliveira. Despite both fighters having elite wrestling credentials, their MMA wins have been dominated by KOs. Gaethje has 19 knockouts on his record with only 1 submission victory, and Chandler has an impressive 10 knockouts and 7 submissions. Before his fight with Khabib, Gaethje was on a 4-fight knockout streak. He's the only person on earth who's managed to knock out the boogeyman Tony Ferguson. He has dynamite in his fists and his destructive low kicks have his opponents tiptoeing gingerly into battle. He's the first fighter in UFC history to receive bonuses in each of his first 7 fights. He has 5 fight of the night and 4 performance of the night bonuses in those 7 fights. Even before the UFC, the highlight was breaking records.
Justin Gaethje is a monster.
He was the World Series of Fighting lightweight champion with the most consecutive title defences, most wins in title bouts, the longest lightweight winning streak and most knockout wins. Despite being an NCAA Division I All-American, guess how many takedowns he's attempted in his 8 UFC fights? 0. Instead, he opted to use his face to stop his opponent's offences.
That's my belief. Yeah, I'm number 2. Who else? There's absolutely nobody else.
Standing opposite Gaethje is the equally formidable Iron Michael Chandler, who will be making his 3rd UFC appearance after spending 11 years at Bellator. Chandler's UFC debut was emphatic, knocking out Kiwi Dan Hooker with a brutal left hook midway through the 1st round. In his 2nd UFC fight, he fought for the vacant lightweight title against Charles Oliveira, losing by TKO 19 seconds into the 2nd round after coming close to finishing Du Bronx in the 1st. Chandler's pre-UFC career is sensational and his list of accolades rivals Gaethje's. He has the tied most fights and tied most wins, the most submission wins, the most stoppage wins, the most title reigns and most title bouts in Bellator history, to name a few. We definitely have a potential fight of the year battle on our hands, and the betmakers are giving Gaethje the slight advantage in the odds. Who do you think will take the edge in this one? On paper it's too close to call, but if I had a gun to my head, I think I'd choose Chandler. His overwhelming power and his actual utilisation of his wrestling win me over.
Namajunas versus Zhang.
In the co-main event, we have the Strawweight Championship rematch between Rose Namajunas and Zhang Weili. In their first meeting, Thug Rose flattened Zhang with a monstrous head kick just 78 seconds into the fight, ending Weili's 21-fight winning streak and striking gold for the 2nd time in her UFC career. Zhang Weili started Shaolin Kung Fu at the age of 6 and went on to make her pro MMA debut in 2012, losing her first ever fight by decision. That might have disheartened the average person, but not Zhang. She then went on a 21-fight win streak, becoming China's first ever UFC champion after an emphatic first-round TKO win over Jessica Andrade in front of a home crowd in Shenzhen, China. She successfully defended her title in 2020's Fight of the Year, beating Queen of Violence, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, by split decision and leaving her opponent looking like a sexy elephant man.
UFC Strawweight Champion of the World.
Champion Rose Namajunas is number 3 in the women's pound-for-pound rankings. The Taekwondo and Karate black belt has a record of 10 wins and 4 losses. She made her pro debut in January 2013 and signed to the UFC later the same year. A year later, in December 2014, she lost the inaugural Strawweight Women's Championship title fight to Carla Esparza in her UFC debut and only the 4th fight of her career. She went on to fight undefeated strawweight champion Joanna Jędrzejczyk at UFC 217, and despite being a huge underdog, she knocked out Joanna in the 1st round, finally getting her hands on the elusive title. For the rematch against Jędrzejczyk, Rose was again the betting underdog and again defied the odds, beating Joanna by unanimous decision after a hard-fought 5-round battle. A year later, Rose would face Jessica Andrade, who lifted the champion and slammed her bald head into the canvas, knocking her unconscious. She would later go on to get revenge over Andrade. However, Weili Zhang had already stripped her of her title. And now, after their first battle, Namajunas and Zhang meet again, with Rose finally being favoured by the betmakers to win the rematch and retain her title.
Usman versus Covington.
The main event of the evening is the highly anticipated rematch between Colby Chaos Covington and Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, 2 high-level wrestlers with 2 of the best gas tanks in the UFC. Their first fight was stopped 50 seconds before the end of the 5th round after Usman dropped Covington twice and delivered some nasty hammer fists to his grounded foe. Donald Trump's lapdog thought the stoppage was premature and left the cage in a tantrum shortly after Usman was announced the winner. It was an incredibly close fight with the 3 cage-side judges all submitting completely different scorecards. One judge scored 3 rounds to Covington, another scored 3 rounds to Usman, and the 3rd scored it a draw. So this rematch had to happen to end any speculation once and for all. Usman is riding a 17-fight win streak and is supremely confident coming into this fight, having knocked Jorge Masvidal out cold in his last outing, the first person to ever finish him. Although less impressive, Colby is coming into the fight with some momentum behind him after beating former welterweight champ in the 5th round just over a year ago.
I want my belt back!
Covington has said that he feels like a kid before Christmas leading up to this fight and that Donald Trump gives him dragon energy, whatever that is. Regardless, the bookies have Usman as the huge betting favourite to retain the gold and solidify himself as one of the greatest welterweights of all time. Well, that's our roundup of UFC 268. Leave your picks in the comments below and be sure to like the video and subscribe to the Combat Sports Network. Give CSN a follow on Instagram and Facebook and check out our website www.combatsportsnetwork.co.nz and sign up for access to a plethora of homegrown combat sports events and fights from around the world. I'm Kyle, this is the Combat Sports Network. Until next time, ta-da.